1.4 million Section 8 renters will lose their Section 8 voucher in the next couple of years. Welcome to the Never Lose a Deal podcast. This podcast is designed strictly for real estate investors who desire to build out their real estate portfolio leveraging creative financing. And so that is what today's topic is going to be about, which is a lot of the recent changes that have been going on in the economy, especially in terms of some of the mandates that have came down from the government. Now, before I get started, I always like to introduce myself. As I mentioned, my name is Lorillia Brown-Phillips, and I am the host of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. You may be watching us on YouTube or Spotify, or you may be listening on many of the podcasting platforms. And so I always like to share with individuals I am not new to this conversation of financing, credit, as well as real estate. And so I share a lot of some of the insights. Many of them are based on the experience that I have with myself or with my clients. But primarily today, I want to really zoom into what's been going on in the economy. And so let's jump right in. So, as of last week, I did a podcast episode talking about the Big Beautiful Bill, how it is to favor real estate investors and business owners. Unfortunately, this podcast is not a political podcast. So, you know, things that are discussed about the government has nothing to do with what side you are on, whether you are aligned with what the president is doing or you're not. Because at the end of the day, um, directly or indirectly, things do affect us. And so during that episode of my last podcast where I talked about the Big Beautiful Bill, and I went over some of the things and some of the changes that the government is looking to do. And so that's what I kind of want to talk about today because it's a loaded topic. It's not something that you can discuss in one episode. So I will be doing several episodes kind of discussing some of those mandates. And one of them has to do with the 1.4 million Section 8 renters that will be losing their voucher. Now, of course, just if individuals do not know that this will not affect those that are elderly or disabled. So if you know someone who does have Section 8 and they are disabled or they're elderly, they will not be affected. This would only affect able body. And I know people will say, okay, well, what constitute able body? Well, according to the mandate is individuals who do have the ability to be able to work but don't work. Um, of course, government is saying that it's a lot of wasteful spending and that checks and balances have not been done in the past couple of years. So there are people who are using these Section 8 vouchers who really don't need them. Now, that's a very loaded statement. It's not a statement that I agree with, that I aligned with, but it is a statement of, how can I put it? We live in a country where, depending on where you live, rental prices are out of the roof. And I will just use myself as an example, living in the Northeast. It's very expensive to rent here. And so if minimum wage is $15 and a 2-bedroom house, apartment, or what have you, on the low side can go for about 2,500, that's still not talking, that still doesn't um, uh, take into account your other needs and necessities. It could put you in a shortfall. It can literally put you in a shortfall. And so I can see individuals who would need the added financial support to need that voucher. But unfortunately, government doesn't think so. And I've said in my last podcast episode, this government, the way a lot of the mandates are changing, it is favoring you being either a business owner, self-employed, or some type of investor, whether you're a portfolio investor or a real estate investor. Now, that doesn't mean, because on another platform, I shared a video and one of the comments was, everybody can't be a business owner. And I totally agree. Everybody can't be it. But this is what everybody can do. Must have some way to create another stream of income. Because unfortunately, one stream of income is not going to do. And so, and when I say another stream outside of, okay, hey, this is what I do with my job, and having something along with it. The reason why I say that is because in the past couple of years, these changes were slowly happening. I did episodes about it before. I remember doing even a video saying that it's easier to buy a house than it is to rent. This country has gotten to a point now where it is very hard to rent. I think the last podcast episode, I talked about how now your rental history can now qualify to help you to get a mortgage. Now, that's either good or bad. It just depending on the underwriting, because that's the part that's in the gray area. Yes, that mandate was put in place that rent payments can now be part of you qualifying for a mortgage, but now that's a very gray area. In the past, and I'm not even someone who writes FHA mortgages, but with me being in the industry indirectly, because I'm more so on the investor side, I do know things about it. And so in the past, when I made the statement that it's easier to buy than it is to rent, I am not supporting or advocating that people should not pay their rent, or things may not have things may have happened, and maybe you've had some little shortfalls with you paying your rent. But the thing is that many of those financial blemishes did not appear on your credit report. And so someone can have a very lean credit report and still qualify and get a mortgage if they have the income. But if now my rental history has to be a part of it, that's why I said this mandate was put in place, but the gray area is going to come with underwriting. What about if I don't want to include it? Because I've had some hiccups. Maybe I'm that person who's had some hiccups. So now not only is it hard to rent, it is now harder to buy a home. Pretty much an individual's in a rock and a hard place. Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? That's why it hurts me when I hear people on the internet who may be new to money or some type of income, and they're spewing information that can really harm a person by saying, don't buy a home, you should rent. When a person says that, there's no context to it. So what happens is that a person will hear that statement and think, okay, I'm just going to continue to rent, to rent, to rent, to rent, to rent, and not try to own something. Because at the end of the day, and this is what I've always told my clients, equity is equity is equity. And you are always going to build equity. If you buy a house today, or I'm even going to say this, if you bought a house in 2019 and now it is 2025, it is 6 years, not only did you build up equity, you've built up a heck of a lot of appreciation. And if you were financially literate enough to keep your credit good, you can tap into that equity and have some type of cushion to be able to invest in something else. I'm not big with taking and tapping into equity if you just want to pay bills, because then what happens is that you're using equity, and then the thing is that you're not able to use that money to make money. But going back to my example, you've bought something in 2019. It's now 2025. You have 6 years of appreciation, and not only appreciation, equity too. If you live here in the Northeast, you've made out like a bandit, as well as some other pockets around the country. Renting will never get you that. And I get it, the talking heads who say and talk about renting, it has its place. And I understand when people say that, but it's not given any context. So it leaves the person thinking one thing, and that's really not what's being told to the person correctly. And so what happens is that you end up in this cycle where, once again, you are now at the mercy of the government. 1.4 million Section 8 renters will possibly lose their voucher in the next 2 years. Now, let's go to the other side of the investor. What are you doing, Mr. and Mrs. Investor, who portfolio may be heavy leveraged in the Section 8 space? There are many people who have built their portfolios with Section 8. Now, of course, as soon as I do this podcast, everything goes off. So going back to what I was saying, what do you do as a investor who is highly leveraged in the Section 8 space? Now, I know some of the pieces that I have been reading online that some affordable housing developments have put a brake on building out affordable housing because they're not sure if they're going to get that federal subsidy, because affordable housing gets that government piece to be able to finance many affordable housing developments. So now it causes a trickle effect. Section 8 housing, there's a pause, but now how does that affect the investor? So, investors that I've been talking to, a lot of my clients that I help get financing, of course, they're diversifying their portfolio. If you look right on the screen, recently I've put a book together because many people still don't know that there are financing programs, which is what this show is about, creative financing. And there are financing programs that are strictly just for the business owner and the real estate investor, where you do not have to show tax returns and you do not have to use your personal income. Disclaimer, let me give you context for that. This is not no get rich and try to beat the bank to get financing. That's not what this is. The book that I wrote, Mortgage Freedom Playbook, how business owners and real estate investors can get mortgage financing without using tax returns or personal income, has to do with the diversity that comes along with the different programs that are available, suited just for those groups of people. Because I have conversations with people all the time. Now, this book is not designed for the house hacker. House hacking has its place, but this is for that business owner or that real estate investor who is not cash poor, meaning they're not just trying to buy something with just the smallest little piece of down payment. That's why I said this is not house hacking. This book is to show real estate investors as well as small business owners the other options that are available to give them some options, financing options, to be able to increase their portfolio. So if you look right on the screen, you'll see the QR code. You can scan it, as well as in the show notes. I'll make sure that I put a link to it. It's an ebook. It will eventually be a small paperback book. The ebook is about 25 pages. Not quite sure what the paperback is going to be, but it's based on my body of work. Um, I've been talking about this topic since 2016. So, although I'm new to the podcasting space, not new to sharing value. And so I have over 1,000 videos just here if you're watching on YouTube. So, these methods and financing options is based on videos that I have did, and I've talked about it, but I now have put it in a book. So whether you decide to work with me or you want to work with another financing professional that specializes with working with investors, you know the options out there. So going back to the topic at hand with Section 8 investors, are you that investor who is looking to diversify your portfolio if you are heavy leveraged in the Section 8 space? So these are the conversations that I'm having. I've made when these mandates were made and at least talked about since early part of this year. I started picking up the phone and reaching out to investors that I know here locally, as well as the ones that I've talked to and I work with throughout the country, and wanted to get an idea of what it is that they're working on and what are they doing in terms of putting themselves in a good place financially where they're not heavy leverage. Another topic I want to tap into today, now that we talked about the Section 8, is crypto. I think I may have touched on it on the last podcast episode, but crypto is it has its place. And it has its place, and for all those crypto investors, of course, I'm no expert on it. I only invest in it for my personal portfolio, so I give no advice on it. So this is not advice. This is just to show you, and I've said in the last podcast episodes, the way financing real estate is today in the next 5 years is going to be totally different, as well as with credit. Last episode, I went really into how now mortgage loan brokers, companies, or what have you, can now use Vantage Score as opposed to FICO. I won't go into that. Look at the last episode if you want to hear more about that and those mandates. But you've heard it here. Changes are going to come down the line with artificial intelligence, the mandates that are coming down from the government. The world that we know it is going to change. And if you do not change with it, and this is the part where people get all emotional. If you do not change with the times in terms of staying abreast of what's going on, if you're still trying to operate like you did in 2019 from a financial standpoint, you are going to lose out because Federal Housing Secretary Polk, when he made that announcement, I saw it on Twitter, read the mandate. The current president wants to make the US one of the leading crypto leaders in the crypto space. And so now, how does this play a part with FHA? Well, FHA will now look at crypto as an asset class, as a qualifying asset class. And so that means that you can get a mortgage using crypto. It doesn't just have to be the currency of digital money in terms of dollar bills or what have you. Crypto can now be a qualifying asset. So if you have to put a down payment down or what have you, or if your assets are heavily leveraged in crypto, it is now an asset class that can qualify you to get a mortgage. And so I won't be surprised, even though I'm on the investor and the commercial side, I can really see that happening in the secondary market. So, like I said, one thing is certain, changes are happening. And you either stay abreast of what's going on or you will be left behind. That's why I do podcast episodes like this, because you need to be informed. You need to be informed. The reason why I'm pausing, because I'm just thinking with what I shared in the last episode in terms of the big beautiful bill and me doing a second part of it, but me taking pieces out. Like I said, that podcast episode, I mean, just talking about that bill, there's no way that you can cover it. I usually do these podcast episodes between 25 to 30 minutes. But I will say this, I have said in the past that we are now in an economy where you're not going to be able to trick or finesse any type of financial institution. With the emergence of crypto being part of an asset class that's recognized, um, and then also changes with the housing industry, a lot of changes are going to come down the line. But as always, I will be talking more about this. I said that I was going to dedicate the summer to talking about the different forms of financing. But then when that big, beautiful bill came July the 4th, that changed everything. So that's why I'm doing episodes on this, because individuals need to be informed. But if you are just listening, please go to the beginning of the episode and check it out. As I mentioned, if you're watching it on YouTube or Spotify, right in front of me, you will see the Mortgage Freedom Playbook. This is for investors as well as business owners who would like to diversify their financing options, because there are so many ways to be able to expand your portfolio outside of what many people know. Like I said in many episodes, and I won't beat it down this episode, no one investor knows everything. And so, I pity the fool for that person who says they do this, but they know all about financing too. And that's really not the case, because what I know is that successful, high performing investors, they respect wise counsel and they respect advisement. So if that is you, please go check out the Mortgage Freedom Playbook. Like I said, it's an ebook now. It will eventually be a small paperback book. The ebook is about 25 pages. Like I said, those resources will be able to assist you. But in the meantime, if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe, leave a comment. And if you are listening on one of the podcasting platforms, please leave me your thoughts and let me know what you think about the Section 8 mandate that just recently been announced, as well as crypto. So once again, this is Lorillia. See you in the next episode.